All right, my name is Rachel Dieter, and I am one of the career coaches in the Career Development Office here at Xavier. Today, I'm going to be talking about the virtual career fair and all the ins and outs so that you feel prepared to engage in our virtual recruiting events. All right, so for our virtual career fairs here at Xavier, we use Handshake, which is hopefully a platform that you are already familiar with. You can find all of our career development office events on Handshake. You can find employer events on Handshake. Sometimes they host their own recruiting events or information sessions, and all of those will be listed on Handshake. We also host all virtual career fairs, and even in-person career fairs can be found on Handshake, though they wouldn't be facilitated that way. We traditionally host a fall and spring career fair each year. They are open to all students and all alumni, regardless of the major or program of study. And employers do recruit for both internships and full-time employment opportunities at these career fairs. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Handshake platform, I'm going to take you through this now. So when you register for the fair, you'll be able to see that you can interact with employers in a couple different ways. Employers can host 30-minute group information sessions and or 10-minute one-on-one sessions. It's up to the employers to host what they want to host. So they will likely host a variety. That's what most employers do. But sometimes they might only host one-on-one sessions or only group information sessions. It really depends. Group information sessions are by nature open to everybody. So no matter what class year you are, no matter what major you are, no matter what your GPA is or your work authorization status is, you will be able to attend a group information session if an employer is hosting it. The flip side of that is the one-on-one sessions, and employers can set qualifications for those one-on-one sessions. This allows them to connect with students and candidates that they really are looking to connect with. So sometimes an employer might be hiring for an immediate opening, they're attending our fall career fair, and they say, I only want to talk to alumni and folks who are graduating in December 2020 or December of that year. So that would allow them to talk to people who are going to be available to work really quickly. And that's kind of the goal if that's their recruiting need. Maybe they have an internship program that's only open to juniors with a 3.0 GPA, so they might set those qualifications there too. That being said, qualifications are defaulted to pause 24 hours before the career fair. So that basically is a setting that Handshake has created that enables you to go in and schedule with an employer, even if you didn't originally meet their qualifications. But employers can opt out of that feature. So if they say, no, we're really serious, we only want these people who meet these qualifications, they might say, no, we don't want to default we don't want that default feature, but it is designed to help them fill their schedule up. So keep checking if you're not able to schedule with someone. Additionally, if you can't schedule that one-on-one with an employer, please email your specific career coach and we can look into why. And it could be, maybe you're really ahead of the game and the employer hasn't set their schedule yet. They might have those qualifications. So that's either class year, major, GPA, or work authorization status, or their one-on-one sessions might already be full, but we can see that on the back end. So please feel free to reach out to us if you cannot figure out why you can't schedule. We can tell you. And then another note is just that Handshake has designed their platform to be accessible for options outside of video chat. We're going to recommend that you do video chat if at all possible, but we understand that that might not be an option for you. And so just know that Handshake is accessible for options outside of video chatting. The day of the fair, all you need to do is log into Handshake, and there will be a banner at the top of the screen that says, Xavier University Fall Career Fair today, and then you can click that, and it'll take you to all the sessions that you've signed up for. It'll show you vacancies. If you wanted to continue to fill your schedule, you could continue to do that. You can actually schedule very far in advance. So we actually have employers that have already built their schedule now. I'm recording this in July 2021, and we have employers who are registered and have already built their schedules. But you can also schedule the day of the fair. So the caution with that is that once one-on-one sessions are full, we cannot require employers to open any more sessions. So if you have an employer you're really dying to connect with, make sure that you get that session signed up for ASAP, because once they're gone, we can't require them to open any more sessions. You can register up until 1 minute before the session starts. So if you're, the day of the fair and you've logged in, it's 2 o'clock, you realize, oh, I have an opening at 2:10. You can go ahead and sign up for a session that's starting, in 10 minutes or, really theoretically in 1 minute. But you can't register for a session after it started. So if you realize, oh, it's 2:11, I don't have anything during this 10-minute block, you cannot sign up for something at that time. And a note that you can only schedule one-on-one session per employer, but there's no cap to your total number of sessions other than that the fair is, 3 hours long. So you're kind of held into that. All right, so one of the things that hopefully you've kind of become familiar with throughout the past year plus at this point, that technology can sometimes act up in the most inconvenient times. Hopefully you haven't had to deal with this, right? But we always want to make sure that we do whatever we can so that it's not an issue. So make sure that you update any technology that you'll be using during the fair. This includes things like your device, your browser, and you want to make sure that you test the video in advance. On the very last slide, there's a link to do that so that you can test that video. But you also want to update your Handshake account. So when you participate in the fair, you'll need to set your account to be visible to employers. And if you're participating in any group sessions, you'll also have to make it visible to the community setting. Because employers can set those qualifications, you want to make sure that all that information is accurate. You can add in, it's a self-reported graduation date. So Handshake does a lot of the stuff that it inputs from Banner, so it should be correct. Your GPA, your majors, all that stuff should be correct. But the graduation date is something that's self-reported, so you want to make sure that you add that in. Add an updated resume. I'll show you where you can do that in just a second when I give you a little Handshake demo. And then you do want to make sure to upload a recent and professional photo to your account. If you haven't had a professional headshot taken, we will typically host opportunities to do that. So keep your eyes open for any opportunities there. But if you aren't able to attend whatever we host in the fall, you can always just grab a friend, get a nice neutral background on campus, and have them snap a picture of you that you can use. You just want to make sure it's just you and that you're dressed up probably a little bit nicer than your day-to-day Xavier outfits. All right, and so another really big piece of preparing for the career fair is researching your employers. So I'll show you how to find the employers who are attending the career fair in the demo that I give you next. But you want to make sure that you look at the list of employers and be really open-minded, right? Sometimes I think when we know what our major is, we get really stuck inside our head and we say, this is who I have to talk to, this is who my major works for, things like that. But every organization needs someone to do finance. Lots of organizations need people in marketing roles, right? So be really open-minded and understand that there may be roles that you weren't necessarily expecting that could be hiring your major. Then from there, you want to make sure that you identify what employers are interesting to you, what employers you want to try and talk to, and make sure that you research those employers prior to one-on-one sessions. If you're using the fair as an exploratory experience and you really don't have a lot of career clarity, you're maybe looking and trying to explore opportunities, those group sessions are going to be great options for you. And sometimes it's a really good idea to go to both a group session and a one-on-one session because you can go learn about the company in that group session, and then you can take that and use what you learned in your one-on-one sessions. But depending on how many employers you're trying to talk to, that's probably not feasible. So you may have to pick and choose. That's why it's really important to do that research before you go into that 10-minute one-on-one session. And then I'm going to talk about this after I give the little demo, but you do want to make sure to create an elevator pitch that should vary depending on the employer. So you're going to talk about different skills and experiences depending on the employer that you are talking to. So let me go ahead and pull up. All right, so hopefully this looks familiar to you. This is Handshake. Hopefully you've logged in before, but if you haven't, I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo so that you can understand how to find those events, those career fairs, as well as how to schedule an appointment with your career coach. So to find events, probably not surprising, what you're going to do is click events up in the top middle of, or top left of the page. And so you can go ahead and see career fairs here. You're going to see events that the career development office is hosting, so you can see some of our get hired sessions. You can also see sessions that employers are hosting. So if you're interested in working at Mayo Clinic, you can go to some of those sessions that they're hosting, PetSmart. So all kinds of different sessions can be found here. If you wanted to filter out just career fairs, you can actually use the career fair filter. Which is really great, makes it super easy to find those opportunities. So you can see here that we have our virtual fall career fair. It's going to be on Thursday, September 23rd. If you go ahead and click on this, you'll be able to see just a little bit more information, tons of different resources that have been added to this homepage. You can even see, a sample of the employers that are attending, and if you wanted to, you could click show all employers, and that would take you to the list. As I may have mentioned this already, but I'm recording this in July of 2021, so there's still several months left for employers to register, so don't be shocked by that number. We got plenty of time. So from the career fair, what you're going to want to do is click register. So once you've clicked registered, it is immediately going to prompt you to sign up for sessions. You don't need to do that, but I would recommend that you do sign up for sessions once you register. We have a lot of students that will register and then never sign up for sessions, and that's not going to get you your credit for BUAD for going to the career fair. You do actually have to sign up for sessions. Like I said, you can sign up for them the day of the fair, but you might have slimmer pickings than somebody who signs up right away. So I'm going to go ahead and click view employer sessions. And kind of as I've mentioned, we don't have a ton of folks registered yet, but I'm still going to be able to kind of take a look and sign up for sessions. So you can see TQL has lots of group sessions, so they might have qualifications that they've set that they don't want to talk to the kind of identities that we have set for the fake student account that I'm using right now. But you can see DOZ here, and they're allowing me to schedule one-on-one, so I could go ahead and click that. It's going to require me to make my profile public, which I'm not going to do because this is a fake student. But if I was going to hit update, then I would be able to schedule the time. So I would be able to see, it said there that they had 30 open sessions. So I would be able to see all of their open sessions and select the time that I wanted. Same kind of thing if I said, okay, I want to do a group session with New York Life, it's going to prompt me again to make that profile public to participate in that group session. And then I'd be able to sign up for that 2 to 2:30 time slot for that group session. You can apply filters. So if you said, okay, I only want somebody who's hiring for internships, you could apply the internship filter. Same thing with full-time, part-time, or location. So really good options there. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to upload a resume. So what you want to do to upload a resume is click on your initials in the top right corner, and then from there you'll click My Documents. You can see, so this is again our fake students. There's some kind of random things that have been uploaded, but to upload an up-to-date document, you would just click Add New Document, and then you would probably name it, resume and the year. And then you can name it if it's a resume, a cover letter, a transcript, or another document, and then you'd be able to add it. And it will convert to a PDF once you upload. You should use PDF anyways, but just a note that it will convert. If you don't already upload a PDF, it will change it to a PDF once it's uploaded. All right, and then the other thing I want to show you here on Handshake is how to schedule an appointment with your career coach. So what you're going to do is go to Career Center, and then from Career Center, you're going to scroll down, and then you can click Appointments, and then you're going to click Schedule a New Appointment, and then probably you're going to select current students. If you're a veteran or a military connected student, you would select that category. If you've got questions about campus employment, you would select that. And then the other thing, I guess, is if you're an alumni and you're watching this video, you would go ahead and click that then. But most of you are probably going to select current students. And then let's say you want to talk about career fair prep, you could go ahead and select that category type. And then you'd go ahead and find, the date that you wanted to connect. And you can put in a preference for a staff member. So if you're trying to connect with me or another career coach, you can go ahead and search for that. And then you can go ahead and select the time that you want. And select an appointment medium, and then try and write a little bit more. Sometimes you're not going to find a category that super describes what you want to do. Maybe you're like, I think I want to talk about career fair prep, but I'm not actually sure. But if you write a lot of information in here, we will be able to help you. We will be able to figure it out. But if you don't write a lot in here, we may just not be able to be as prepared for your appointment. But just, give us as much information as you can, and we will get through it together. So that is kind of the Handshake demo. If you have questions, concerns, you can always schedule an appointment and we can take you through Handshake. It's a great resource, and definitely, use it. It's great for finding jobs as well, networking with employers, and a whole bunch of things. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. All right, and let me swap that. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the elevator pitch. I know this is a piece that can be really intimidating for a lot of students, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. It's really just a tailored introduction of who you are, what you have to offer, and why you're interested in that specific company. I feel like the biggest question I get is how long it should be. And somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute is about right. Really what you're trying to do is find the balance between saying like, hi, my name is Rachel and I'm a marketing major, and giving me your whole life story, like I was born on a farm in the middle of Iowa, whatever. So you have to find that balance. You want to give them stuff that they could ask you questions about. You don't want to, give them your whole resume, but you do want to give them enough information that they're hooked and that they are invested in you for the next 10 minutes. It should be fluid, so practice, don't make it robotic, and it should be tailored to each company. So if you're applying to maybe a variety of different roles within marketing, you're going to talk about different classes, different internships, different experiences, depending on the type of role that you're applying for. Essentially, you want to try and answer kind of 4 main questions, or have kind of these 4 checkpoints. You want to say who you are. So this is going to include your name, your class year, your major, minors. What are you seeking and or why that organization? So what kind of internships are you looking for? What kind of things are you looking for in those internships? What is it about that organization that made you say, I want to spend 10 minutes with them at the career fair? What's unique about you? So what do you bring to the table that maybe other people that they're talking with don't have? And then what's a question that you have for the employer? Now, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but you do have 10 minutes, so you probably need to have more than one question. But again, more on that in a second. So for some folks, it's really helpful to kind of have this written out. And so this is one way you can do it. If you don't like this chart, that's fine. You don't have to use it. But it's just a sample way that you can kind of organize all this information, as opposed to like taking notes various different places and then trying to scramble it all together for the career fair. But basically, to give you a short example, you're just trying to give yourself enough to kind of give yourself a jumping off place so that you can say, okay, Fifth Third, why did I want to talk to them? Oh, they're a leader in banking and finance. Okay, why should they be interested in me? Oh, that's right, I'm a club leader. I did an internship. Any specific position that they posted, then a question. So it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be enough for you to say, oh, right, that's what I wanted to say to them, so that you can look at this, once your previous session ends, before your next session starts, and that you can be prepared. All right, you do want to make sure that you have your resume ready to go, even for a virtual career fair. At an in-person career fair, you'd be presenting your resume to employers when you meet with them. But as I showed you that space to upload your resume, make sure you do that. It's really helpful for employers to be able to refer to that later. So it's really good idea to take advantage of that space. Note that some employers do not use Handshake as much as others. So some employers may say, can you just email that to me? And in that case, be willing to do that for them. But you do not need cover letters for the fair. So you don't have to worry about that, at least. So I'm going to get on my little resume writing soapbox. Anytime I have a chance to talk about resume writing, I'm going to take it. Please note that resume should be 1 page with appropriate white space. So that means it should be single spaced, and that margin should be between 1/2 inch and 1 inch. It should be consistent font, formatting, and grammar punctuation. Basically, that means, if you want to put periods at the end of your bullet points, go for it, but make sure you do it after every single bullet point. Make sure all your dates are aligned. Make sure you have kind of one font throughout the thing. If you're capitalizing the section headers, make sure you do it for every section. So just make sure everything is consistent. Make sure you use bullet points to quantify your experiences. I see some people wanting to put paragraphs on their resume. That's really hard to scan. And we know that employers don't spend a lot of time looking at resumes when they look through them that first time in particular. So you want to make sure that you use those bullet points that start with strong action verbs and highlight your accomplishments and responsibilities. When possible, use numbers to quantify your experiences too. And then make sure that you're not including things that aren't relevant to the job. So your hobbies are great. Glad that you have them. They do not matter for your resume. Your resume is about what you have to offer for a company. So really focusing on those professional experiences, including leadership opportunities, volunteer opportunities, class projects that were really significant projects, things you're involved with on campus, skills, certifications, but no soft skills either. So you don't need to be saying that you have good leadership skills, good time management skills. It's really focused on things that are technical and specific to the position that you're applying for. And then make sure that you've had your resume reviewed. You can schedule an appointment in Handshake to have that done. All right, so now I'm going to move into a little bit of information about virtual interactions with employers. So make sure that you make the most of your one-on-one time with employers, right? It's your chance to make a positive first impression. I spent a lot of time last year when we were new to virtual fairs telling students not to panic if they didn't fill the full 10 minutes. But I do want to tell you now that we have some data The vast majority of students told us that they actually wanted more time than the 10 minutes. So that in mind, you want to make sure that you have a plan, and you can schedule these sessions back to back. So you don't need to do 10 minutes and then a 10-minute break and then another 10-minute session and then a 10-minute break. You can schedule them back to back, but you may need to manage your time with that employer, especially if they don't have anybody after you. Hopefully they do, and it's not an issue, but you do need to kind of be mindful of that. With your 10 minutes, you're going to start by giving your pitch. Make sure the employer has introduced themselves as well, and have those several questions prepared. This is very different than an in-person fair in this sense, right? At an in-person fair, most people maybe get 3 minutes with an employer. So having 10 minutes is way more time. So that's where you need to have those several questions, right? One question is probably not going to be enough. That said, follow the employer's lead. They may have questions for you, or they may have another idea of how to fill that time. Let them lead. So if they, kind of take control, that's totally okay. But make sure that you have questions prepared if they don't. If they don't say, okay, tell me more about this or that or whatever, make sure that you have, that kind of skill prepared to take over. But then also focus on quality over quantity. I would much rather you walk away from an interaction after 3 or 5 minutes and feel like it was a really quality interaction than go on for 10 minutes and feel like you're rambling the whole time. So don't worry if you don't fill the whole 10 minutes. I know that, like I said, lots of people told us they wanted more time, but just know if you don't fill that whole time, that is totally okay. You're not going to be the only one that doesn't, and that's fine. I want you to focus on having a positive interaction. Additionally, and I've kind of hinted at this already, video chat is going to be the best method of interaction, as this is the closest to providing that actual kind of body language and personality that we get when we're at those in-person fairs. But employers have told us that it's really hard for them to separate the quality of a virtual interaction from the quality of the candidate. And this goes for interviews too. So they're saying, there are times when they've interviewed somebody and they can't see their face because they're backlit. So they're sitting, with a window to their back or something, and there's no way for them to see their face. Or something behind them is really distracting. That said, we have all gotten a lot more used to remote work and remote learning. So I think there is more understanding than there was maybe 2 years ago before COVID with, loud roommates or loud children or, whatever it is that isn't maybe perfect, but you do want to do whatever you can to control what you can. So make sure that you're in a place that's quiet, that doesn't have a lot of background noise, that you're practicing making eye contact with a recruiter. At the very least, make sure that you're nodding along when they're talking, doing those active listening skills that are really important, and eye contact is one of those. You do want to make sure you dress up. It's not, maybe the same level of getting dressed up when you go to an in-person career fair, but it is still really important to be dressed up. I strongly discourage you to don't wear your pajama pants or your sweatpants, because if you had to stand up for some reason, you would not want the employer to remember you as the person who wore pajama pants to the career fair. So I do recommend that you dress up as on your top, and then also wear nice pants or a skirt or whatever it is you're going to wear. And then you do want to practice. You can practice with us. We're happy to get on a computer and do some practicing with you. But if your concern is something, like eye contact, you can always do that with a friend too. Get a Zoom call opened up and just say, okay, I need you to help me work on my eye contact, because it's not natural for us to spend a lot of time looking at the computer. And you don't want to stare at somebody, but you do want to kind of be mindful of not just staring at the screen, because that isn't what eye contact looks like when you're on a Zoom call. All right, we're kind of coming to a close here, but one of the things that's really important and that hardly anybody does is actually follow up with the employers. And employers have told us that those are the ones who stick out, right? The students who say, hey, I'm actually really invested in this company, and I'm going to take the time to send that follow-up note and thank them for their time, express interest in their positions, ask for more information. Those are the ones who stand out. So how do you do that? Within 1 to 2 business days, give or take, send a follow-up note to every recruiter that you connected with. Even if you learned that they are not the right fit, if you're like, oh gosh, I could never go work at that company, or they didn't have the right position for you, it's always a good idea to follow up. Because sometimes people move positions, they might change organizations, or you might change your major and say, oh no, that is actually something I'm really interested in. You just never know. It's always a good idea to follow up, because that's going to give you that best possible first impression with that person. You can use LinkedIn to do this. You can also ask them for their contact information. That's another weird thing about virtual fairs is that you don't walk away with a big old stack of business cards. You don't really have that kind of physical takeaway. So it's okay to end a session. And you might practice doing that too, is say, thank you so much for your time. I want to be respectful of your time, and I have another session I'm sure you do as well. But would it be possible for me to get an email address so that I could, follow up with any additional questions or something like that? Totally fine to ask for that information. If they don't want to give it to you, respect that too, but they probably will be willing to share. So feel free to always ask for that. So in these messages, if it's LinkedIn or email, thank them for their time and let them know that you really appreciate them spending some time with you during the career fair. List something specific from your interaction. This is going to make it kind of personalized and say, oh, I really thought it was interesting when you shared about this specific program or your employee resource groups or whatever it is. Inquire about any next steps. They may have already covered this, so don't ask if they covered it. If they said, oh, this is how you're going to apply, or this is our process, you don't need to ask. But if they didn't talk about those things, that's a good thing to ask about. And then you want to make sure that they have your contact information too. All right, so one of the last things is just making sure that you know how to connect with our office. So as of July 2021, our plan is to host in-person drop-ins. They're going to be 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday outside of CLC 530, and that's where the Career Development Office is located. So it's in Conington Learning Commons, which is connected to the library on the 5th floor. You only really have to go up 2 flights of stairs. There's also an elevator, so we'll be hosting those. That's great for quick questions. That's great for resume reviews. If you're like, wait, I watched this video and I'm still confused about this piece of the virtual career fair, that's a really good resource. You can always schedule an appointment, which I showed you how to do today, and that little QR code will take you to that appointment scheduling link. So if you want to connect with a career coach, you can always do that. You can also connect with us on social media. We are most active on Instagram because that is where you all are most active with us and most engaged with us. So that's where you'll find that. And then you can check out upcoming career fairs and events on Handshake always. And then last but not least, I just have some additional resources. So these are things that Handshake has put together. They should all be listed on the virtual career fair page in Handshake. So if you need to find them, they should be there. But just note, Handshake has a ton of resources that are designed to help you navigate this process. So if you aren't able to make it to any of the prep events that we have or schedule an appointment or go for drop-ins, Handshake does have a lot of just kind of static resources on the website that are designed to help you navigate this process. All right, thanks so much for tuning in, and please do not hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks so much.